Have you ever come across an old American sedan? Faded paint, sagging interior, yet still cruising smoothly at 70 miles per hour on the highway, as if time had no effect on it. Pop the hood, and you might find a modest-looking engine known as the Buick 3800 V6. It's not the most powerful, not the most beautiful, but it's arguably one of the most durable, fuel-efficient, and reliable engines in American automotive history. For nearly 4 decades, it powered everything from luxury sedans and police cars to full-blown sleeper builds. With outstanding longevity and low maintenance costs, the 3800 won the hearts of both mechanics and everyday drivers. But what exactly made this humble V6 such a legend in the hearts of Americans? In today's video, we'll explore the origin, design, performance, and why the Buick 3800 is still celebrated as an immortal warrior, even though it was discontinued over 15 years ago. In the early 1960s, Buick was struggling. Their small displacement V8, specifically the 215 cubic inch version, was lightweight and powerful, but the market response was lukewarm. High production costs, less than perfect reliability, and fierce competition from Chevrolet and Ford V8s pushed Buick into a corner. Ironically, the solution came from that very failure. Instead of competing in the saturated small V8 segment, Buick pivoted towards something simpler, cheaper, and more fuel-efficient, a V6. In 1962, they introduced the 198 cubic inch Fireball V6, a 90-degree engine based on a trimmed-down V8 architecture. It was one of the first mass-produced V6 engines in the United States. Shortly after, displacement was increased to 225 cubic inches, and by 1974, the entire production line was sold to AMC, who needed a thrifty power plant for their Jeep lineup. But just a few years later, General Motors realized they had made a mistake. Following the 1973 oil crisis and a sudden spike in demand for fuel-efficient engines, Buick scrambled to buy back the tooling in 1977. This marked the birth of the 231 cubic inch V6, direct ancestor of the legendary Buick 3800 V6. But to understand why this engine became so durable, almost unkillable, we need to dig deeper into its technical layout, which might seem outdated, but was actually brilliantly strategic. Typically, V6 engines are designed with a 60-degree angle between cylinder banks. That configuration ensures better balance, less vibration, and smoother operation. Buick, however, went the opposite route. They retained the 90-degree angle, directly inherited from their V8 blueprint. Why? Because it allowed them to reuse existing tooling and manufacturing lines, keeping costs low while maintaining structural strength. Yes, this made the engine a bit rougher at low RPMs, but the upside was huge. The 90-degree setup delivered strong low-end torque, ideal for American driving habits that favored smooth cruising and effortless acceleration. With a displacement of 231 cubic inches, an in-block camshaft, 2 valves per cylinder, a 4-main bearing crankshaft, and thick cast-iron walls, the 3800 was not only durable, but also incredibly easy to service and maintain. That rock-solid technical foundation paved the way for a development journey that lasted nearly 2 decades, during which the Buick 3800 continually evolved through 3 core generations: Series 1, Series 2, and Series 3. Each generation brought critical updates to match the evolving technology and market needs, but the core philosophy remained the same: durable, torquey, and dependable. Series Y, 1988 to 1991, was the first to officially bear the 3800 name. It was an upgrade from the earlier 231 CID block, equipped with electronic fuel injection, computer-controlled ignition, and delivered between 165 and 170 horsepower. It marked a transition from a no-frills workhorse to a more refined and user-friendly engine. Series 2, 1995 to 2003, is considered the most refined version. Lighter, more efficient, with a 9.4:1 compression ratio, and available in both naturally aspirated and supercharged variants. The NA version produced 200 horsepower. The supercharged L67 version pushed out 240 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. Sports car-level performance in a family sedan. Series 3, 2004 to 2008, was the final chapter. It featured upgrades like a returnless fuel rail, aluminum heads, better sensors, and tighter emissions controls. But among these technical upgrades, one thing stood out: the sensation of acceleration from a supercharged 3800. Smooth, immediate, and quietly shocking. There was no need to hammer the gas pedal, just a gentle press, and the torque pulled the car forward with a sense of effortless authority. It didn't scream sports car, but it made you chuckle in disbelief that you were driving a mid-size family sedan. That's the essence of a sleeper. A car that looks tame, but has enough muscle to surprise anything next to it at a stoplight. And it didn't stop there. Both the L67 and L32 engines were highly tunable. With basic upgrades, a smaller pulley, a less restrictive intake, and a retuned ECU, you could push these engines to 300 to 350 horsepower while keeping them fully streetable. But what made the 3800 even more impressive was this: despite its strength, it remained shockingly fuel-efficient, something few engines in its class could claim. In naturally aspirated form, many Buick and Pontiac models equipped with the 3800 could reach up to 30 miles per gallon on the highway, on par with some modern four-cylinder engines. The secret? Smart, efficient engineering. The overhead valve layout reduced friction. A modest compression ratio and early torque delivery meant drivers didn't need to press the gas pedal hard, helping save fuel in real-world conditions. Even the supercharged versions, while more powerful, could return reasonable mileage when driven gently. That was rare for boosted engines of the time, and thanks to its smooth, low RPM operation, 3,800 equipped cars handled stop-and-go city traffic surprisingly well. Where other engines chugged gas during constant braking and accelerating, the 3800 sipped fuel with discipline. One of the most impressive aspects of the Buick 3800 engine was its incredible versatility across vehicle classes. From luxury sedans to economy cars, police cruisers to taxi fleets, the 3800 showed up everywhere, serving drivers of all kinds. You could find it under the hood of the Buick Park Avenue Ultra, one of the most luxurious sedans of the 1990s. But that very same engine also powered Pontiac Grand Prix, Chevrolet Monte Carlo, and Oldsmobile 88. More affordable, everyday cars for the masses. Even more impressively, many Chevy Impala and Buick LeSabre models with the 3800 were chosen as police vehicles in various states, thanks to the engine's durability, fuel efficiency, and ease of maintenance. This proves that the 3800 wasn't built for one niche. It was designed to be a universal solution for American transportation. Whether you were a retiree looking for a smooth ride to the grocery store or a public servant needing a car that could survive 200,000 miles without issue, the 3800 delivered. And it's no surprise that mechanics gave this engine a unique nickname, the Cockroach engine. Not because it was small or ugly, but because it was almost impossible to kill. In the mechanical world, that's high praise. There are countless stories of 3,800 powered cars crossing 300,000 miles without ever needing an engine rebuild. Owners often said, everything else on the car wore out, but the engine started like clockwork every morning. That kind of longevity wasn't luck. It came from clever engineering, thick cast iron blocks, minimal moving parts, a simple but effective cooling system, and very little reliance on complex electronics. Even the most common issue, intake manifold gasket leaks on Series 2 engines, wasn't a deal-breaker. Parts were cheap, always available, and so easy to replace that even beginner techs could handle it. A reliable, durable, fuel-efficient engine that served millions of Americans. So why was the Buick 3800 discontinued? The answer had little to do with quality and everything to do with changing times. As the 2000s began, automakers faced increasingly strict emission standards, especially in California and states following ULEV and PZEV guidelines. While the 3800 was a solid performer, its traditional OHV design and outdated intake exhaust system just couldn't meet new standards without a total redesign. On top of that, consumers were shifting toward more advanced tech, smoother DOHC engines, and refined driving experiences, areas where the 3800, despite its torque and durability, was no longer competitive against rivals like Toyota's 3.5-liter V6 or GM's own high-feature 3.6-liter V6. From a corporate strategy standpoint, GM also needed engines that could share platforms across global markets. The 3800, with its old-school but rugged layout, no longer fit the bill. In 2008, GM officially ended 3800 production after more than 25 million units had been built. It was a quiet farewell to a mechanical icon, not because it failed, but because the world had moved on. Though discontinued in 2008, the Buick 3800 has never disappeared from America's car culture. In fact, it's now being re-evaluated as a silent engineering icon and a perfect platform for enthusiasts seeking a budget-friendly, reliable, and highly tunable engine. Within the tuning scene, the 3800, especially the supercharged L67, has become a true bargain. With low cost of entry, bulletproof construction, abundant parts, and a passionate support community, people are building sleeper cars, drift machines, and even sub-10-second dragsters powered by the 3800. It's also found a second life as a swap engine for lightweight older cars, from Fieros and Sunbirds to hot rods and kit builds. Easy to mount, cheap to maintain, and strong under boost. It's the go-to choice for those who want to build fast, break never. Classic car fans are also rediscovering models like the Buick Regal GS, Pontiac GTP, and Park Avenue Ultra, not for their styling, but for the engine within. Reliable, torquey, and full of personality. The legacy of the Buick 3800 doesn't live behind glass in a museum. It lives on the streets, in garages, on drag strips, and in the memories of millions who trusted it without question. The Buick 3800 was never flashy. It wasn't built to win trophies or shake the earth. But it was the kind of engine that kept America moving, day after day, year after year. quietly, reliably, and faithfully. From family sedans to police cruisers, from supermarket parking lots to drag strips, the 3800 left behind a legacy few engines could match. Tough as a tank, efficient like a hybrid, easy to fix like a bicycle, and genuinely loved by millions. If you've ever owned a car with a 3800 or have a memory tied to it, share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you think this video was worth your time, give it a like, hit subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next journey, where legendary machines are brought back to life through memory and passion.